Kumar to you all. So Professor Deepak Kumar has researched, taught and published on the histories of science, technology, environment and medicine in the context of modern India for more than 4 decades. Since 1998, he taught history of science and education at the Jawaharlal Nehru University, New Delhi. Earlier, he had taught history at Kurukshetra University and headed the History of Science Division at CSIR, NISTADS. He has lectured extensively at several universities within India and abroad. He has organized about 17 seminars and conferences and participated in many more. In 1997, he founded an International Commission on Science and Empire, IUHPS-DHS, and remained its president until 2001. In November 2008, he had organized and presided over the 20th International Association of the Historians of Asia in New Delhi. Professor Kumar has held visiting fellowships and professorships at the Universities of Cambridge, London, Wisconsin, Sheffield, Tehran, Jerusalem, and Santi Niketan, Hyderabad, Calcutta, Barnes, Marburg, York, Canada, Max Planck Institute, Berlin, and the Smithsonian Institute, Washington, D.C. He is known for his book Science and the Raj, and in addition, he has co-edited with his colleagues several books on history of technology, medicine, education, and environment. His latest work is on contemporary India titled The Trishanku Nation. So with this introduction, I would like to warmly welcome Professor Kumar to conduct his keynote speech. Professor Kumar, the session is over to you. Thank you. Professor, yeah, you're on mute.
Thank you very much. I hope now you can hear my voice. Thanks.
Yes, we can hear you.
Given. Thanks for bringing me back to my wonderful times with you in Colombo a couple of years ago, and the significant, important work that your institution and your team is doing in advancing knowledge, bringing people from different parts of the world on a common platform. This meeting is little unusual for me also because probably, we are meeting on a virtual platform, and makes me ponder, how does this key term virtual affects not only our existence, but the way we think and our thinking processes as conceptualized in the disciplines which are called humanities and social sciences. I shall not allow myself to be overpowered by the unfortunate pandemic that has enveloped us. I will not give much time to it. Rather, I would prefer to stick to the theme of the seminar, theme of this meeting, and that is to look at the relevance of humanities and social sciences. These two terms are very significant. Humanities, social sciences. How did these terms emerge? What do they actually imply? The center at the world of all kinds of knowledge, including humanities, has always been the human being. Humanities means that it's a study of the humans. And in social sciences, when you use the term social, it implies, refers to humans as social beings. Of course, our cousins in the animal kingdom, they also have their own social life, social relations, etc. But that is not covered under social sciences. When we use the term social sciences, we mean humans as social beings. And of course, sciences is a very significant term. Sometimes it's used, sometimes it's not used. But that doesn't mean that, some who use the prefix or suffix science are more significant than those who don't use it. For example, political science. History doesn't use the term science, but that doesn't make it in any case, less scientific. No. Science actually refers to a kind of process knowledge, a knowledge which has undergone some kind of distillation process. And once this distillation takes place, then you have a corpus of knowledge which people discuss among themselves and adopt it as verifiable truth. So, when we use the term social sciences, it implies that we are aware of a particular kind of processes and we adhere to that process, which may be called scientific method, which has been called scientific method. Every discipline has a method of its own, which is supposed to be scientific, which is supposed to be well deliberated, discussed, and so forth. And another significant point that I would like to mention here is that in both humanities as well as social sciences, they need to be permeated with what one may call scientific temper, inquisitiveness, reason, rationality. So once all these come together, logic, reason, rationality, scientific temper, etc., that imparts a kind of legitimacy to social sciences, which makes it more useful and significant for understanding not only human society, but also in providing guidance to the future. Well, we are not futurologists. We don't do astrology. You don't gaze at the future as something, very mysterious. Social sciences allows us an understanding of the social sciences, its different branches, an understanding of the past, allows us not only to grapple with our present, but also hazard some relevant guess about the future. I will come back to it a little later, but right now I have made 2-3 points. One, that both humanities and social sciences deal with humans. Second, they both undergo certain kind of distillation to make it more relevant, to make it acceptable to reason, the touchstone of reason, and so forth. I would also like to add here, that knowledge in itself is a huge, huge umbrella under which many things come. Even superstition can come under knowledge. Mythologies come under knowledge. Stories, all kinds of imagination come under knowledge. In Sanskrit, we call it jnana. But jnana becomes vijnana only when it undergoes a process. It becomes vijnana, loosely translated, would be science. Knowledge becomes science only when it undergoes a process. So we must keep this distinction in mind, jnana and vijnana. Jnana is fairly large, huge. Everything comes under it. And the process to obtain this jnana is called vidya. Vidya is a process, not an end in itself. That is education. Vidya, in loose sense, education. With these preliminary remarks, I would like to move further, a little more probing what we have done so far in these areas. Human civilization had a very exciting history. I don't have to tell you, the long duty, thousands of years. Some people would take it to even to eras beyond our imagination. But with some solid evidence, we know that ours had been a thinking civilization for a few thousand years, without doubt. Human settlements in Jericho, 9,000 BC. Later, we had several civilizations in the 3rd, 4th millennia before Christ, when we had the Egyptians and several other river valley civilizations, urban civilizations, Indus, Babylonian, the river civilization in China, many places. And we have both archaeological evidence, and sometimes their written form has also been deciphered, and we know a good deal about them. We can trace our lineage, both intellectual, social, economic, to several centuries before Christ, which we normally take as the Gregorian calendar. These days, people are so much obsessed with pandemic that they are talking in terms of before Corona and after Corona, BC and AC, which I don't believe in. No. Life would come back. Let us shed our obsession. Let us continue with a long view of who we have been, who we are, and how we are moving to what future. This basically is the subject of both humanities and social sciences. However, there is one fundamental distinction. When we go to literature, which is an extremely important form of humanities, a part of humanities, we go to certain other kinds of academic activities, you will see that imagination plays a huge role in it. A laureate can go to sun and come back. A laureate can easily compare your face with moon. But a historian can't do it. A philosopher can speculate to areas which may at that time appear wild. But others cannot speculate. Even among scientists, physicists, you have something called scientific imagination. But that imagination must be at some stage verified. People made hypotheses, but it was not accepted quickly. It took years and years, sometimes centuries, for its acceptance. Copernican revolution was not accepted quickly. Took almost a century. Darwinian concept is still being challenged in some quarters. Vatican recognizes it only as a hypothesis, not as scientific truth, because it has been too revolutionary in its character. Similarly, in humanities, certain sections of this discipline can afford to imagine, which gives you enormous pleasure, which contains certain morals, human morals, ethics. This is what we find in our epics, the Greek epics, the so-called Hindu epics, Ramayana and Mahabharata and so forth. They are wonderful flights of imagination and remarkable literary creation. Gives you pleasure. But they can be considered as valuable sources of or for construction of social sciences. They have to be taken with a pinch of salt. I was very amused when I found in Sri Lanka, some of your, some aeronautical division of the government has floated a project to know about the Vimana that Ravana is supposed to have flown. So, fine. In India also, we keep talking about Pushpaka Vimana. Now, this was a lovely, great flight of imagination, but we need solid evidence, proof, to find out, to take it as a historical truth. We can't, unless we find that evidence. So, this whole question of evidence is very crucial in the construction of social sciences. In humanities, you can go. You have the liberty. And thereby you enthuse, you amuse, and you instruct, you impart certain moralities. But in social sciences, we have to be grounded in evidence. As you know, as law, you need evidence. The plaintiff presents his evidences, the defendant brings another kind of evidences, and the poor judge has to sit over both, weigh which evidence appeals him most or appeals to reason most, and thereby give a judgment. Similarly, the similar dilemma or similar drama is enacted in a historical construction. Here the historian is a plaintiff, he brings some kind of evidence, then he's supposed to bring another contradictory kind of evidence also as a defendant. So he's both plaintiff and defendant. So a good historian should see not only his point of view, evidence which conform to his point of view, but also the other end of the stick. He's supposed to take care of the contrary evidence also. And finally, in concluding sections, he's supposed to pronounce certain tentative judgments. I repeat the word tentative judgment. No judgment can be final. If you take to real faith, then faithful would say the judgment only of the Supreme is final. We can always give, what we can give is only tentative. Even my views are tentative. Shouldn't be taken as final. So historian is all three rolled into one. He is plaintiff, he is defendant, he is the judge. And it is probably a higher court of justice than any other kind of courts that you see in our mundane life, civil court, high court, supreme court, etc. A historian practices in a higher court of justice. You know, in Mahabharata, there is a mention that Dhritarashtra was worried more about how history is going to judge him than about whether he is going to lose his sons in the war or not. What would be the outcome of the war bothered him less than what bothered him most was how he would be, what place he will get in history. Even today, most of our very, very powerful leaders, whom we consider very powerful, they also know which footnote of history they will be consigned to. They are worried about. Which texts of history they will find a mention. Very powerful people are reduced to one sentence. Isn't it? So we should be very careful with our craft. When we practice it, as sociologists, as historians, as anthropologists, as people who think, we have to be careful about what we write, how we write, and what would be its, consequences. This is how I believe that both humanities and social sciences thus have a great role to play and have already played in human history, in human civilization. It has been there all along. In fact, 3 disciplines are maybe considered as extremely ancient. It has been with us as we developed into Homo sapiens. The moment we developed into Homo sapiens, we had 3 important qualities. One of communication, language. So linguistics, which forms an important part of humanities, is one of the very beginning, language, very beginning of our civilization. It is the language that empowers us to conduct our day-to-day life as well as all work which comes to us. Second, we started playing with numbers. So mathematics, the queen of all sciences, and out of this emerged several many other disciplines, scientific disciplines. So mathematical thinking, computational thinking has been inherent in us the moment we developed into Homo sapiens. Third important discipline is that deals with memory. You know, what do we have as what treasure do we have? The only treasure we have is this hard disk, which has lots of memory. I'm talking to you on the basis of certain kind of memory, certain kind of data which my mind had processed and has kept still alive despite my advancing age. And it is on this memory that a discipline called history is based. It is not only, history is based upon this treasure which nature has given to us. The only thing you have in your hand is your past. This is what you know little bit about it. Present is too slippery. You are trying to grapple. Future is hazy. Future you don't know. We don't know anything. We can only hazard a guess, and it can go bad. It can go outy. But past, we can be, with the help of proper sources and a scientific method, we can be reasonably sure of this is what happened. This is how we discovered wheel. This is how we moved further. This is how we ate. This is how we changed. This is how certain kinds of what you call revolutions took place. This is how some paradigm shift took place. This is how some kind of change and development took place. So, in that sense, history is one of those very basic fundamental disciplines, out of which numerous other disciplines emerge. Sociology is basically social history. Very close cousin, anthropology, very close cousins. We are together. We learn from each other. We need to learn from each other all the time. We need to learn from linguistics. We need to learn from even statistics, mathematics. We need to learn from each other. The more we try to learn from each other, several sister disciplines spanning across both humanities, social sciences, etc., the more we realize that knowledge comes as a interwoven carpet. A kind of carpet which is absolutely interwoven and so beautifully patterned. Beautiful patterns. Knowledge becomes a kaleidoscope. You keep turning and you enjoy. You enjoy more and more when you see it. So, so far we have noted the significance of the prime disciplines and its links with numerous others, all kinds of sub-disciplines and so forth, how knowledge has been interrelated, and this knowledge must at the same time be subjected to critical understanding, to critical gaze. Another point I would like to add here is that there are bound to be difference of opinion. More the difference, more beautiful that theme or that subject would become. More the discussion. So differences are not to be brushed under carpet. Dissenting voice must be heard, must be given its a proper place. Our politicians may not like it, but without dissenting voice, without, how will they learn about their own mistakes? Then you become absolute. Absolute power will corrupt absolutely. And there is nothing like absolute truth. So we have to keep engaged with each other, keep learning with each other, keep critiquing each other. A critical understanding is more important. Unfortunately, in our political systems and in the what you call real politic world, criticisms are not accepted with an open heart. They are always taken as views of the adversary, Now this adversarial mode is not good. Then you come across war-like words most of the time. It's a war. Even pandemic is looked at as if we are at a war with. And what are you fighting with? A single RNA virus. What is this? Can it be war? It is not. We should rather look at it from a better and more holistic perspective. If we don't allow dissenting voices, we run the risk of becoming paranoid. This is what Hitler had. This was most of the authoritarian, most of the dictatorial regimes want. And it is not because of them that civilization has advanced. Civilization has advanced because
Boy, screen share kalla. Bugumati screen share karanne pe.
Hello, there is some problem, Mr. Bhanuka. Mr. Chamat Bhanuka has suddenly turned up. Anyway, sorry for the interruption. I hope you are listening to me. So I was saying that different kinds of opinion must be allowed to coexist. Different kinds of interpretations must be allowed to coexist. Then only we would be, and this calls for certain kind of tolerance. What a human being would be without tolerance? With intolerance, we become beasts. So humanities and social sciences have a special role to play in fostering tolerance, in fostering different kinds of views, in fostering a critical analysis of facts that are presented, that come before it. Now, in the light of what I have said so far, what are the challenges that we see now? I will not take more than 10 minutes to discuss about where do we go from here. Our forefathers did well, our predecessors, as the philosophers, the logicians, the laureates, the authors, the historians, the courtiers, the economists, all kinds of people, they have enriched our knowledge, no doubt about it, and enriched to an extent that the knowledge corpus has become huge. So huge that it is very, very difficult for any single human mind to encompass or even try to fathom. It has become extremely intricate and complicated. And similarly, it has led to numerous divisions. Divisions like divisions into several sub-disciplines. Numerous now new disciplines have come. And the beauty of this is that these disciplines need to be channelized. In fact, they have already been channelized into what we today call multidisciplinary and later interdisciplinary studies. Today's seminar is one of the examples of that. It has distinct advantages, but at the same time, it has certain amount of disadvantages. You know, every discipline has developed, has its own history, has developed its own tools and methodologies. If we allow ourselves to be blown up completely, you lose your feet. It's very good to keep all your windows and doors open. But at the same time, my submission is don't allow your feet to be blown up, overblown completely. No. We need to learn from each other and still try to stick to certain fundamentals of our specific discipline. For example, as a student of history, I learn a great deal from our anthropologists, friends, sociologists, political scientists, literature. Literature teaches you so much. But I cannot give in to literary imagination. Sorry, as a historian, I have to accept my limitation. I cannot accept Pushpak Vimana flying as a historical truth. That would be difficult unless proofs are provided. So we have to see that, you know, in your deliberations on the paper from BHU is coming on mythology. We need to know the difference between mythology and history. You can't mix it. Similarly, mythology and philosophy, and many others. Let us take mythology as mythology, as great creations of human mind and human imagination. They can sometimes be source. They do reflect certain kind of truth, no doubt about it. It's not that all imaginations are wild imaginations. There are certain kinds of imaginations, literary imaginations, which are grounded in reality. Let us look into that from that perspective. But we must take mythologies as mythologies. Let us not confuse it with several others. We have to be careful about it, how we use knowledge. Because misuse can lead to devastating results. Misuse, as I sometimes keep saying, that history, because it's in our genes, past is in our genes, you know, if misuse will make it explode inside you. It explodes. And it can be more dangerous than even atom bomb. Because you yourself are exploding because of certain misconceptions or untruth administered to you as a dose of history. So one has to be careful. One has to be very careful. Even when you take a medicine, you read its ingredients. You want to know about it. The doses are fixed. When you take a vaccine, it is not given like that, just like that, no. The doses are fixed. The microbes are fixed. The vaccine maker knows what kind of response, precise response it would induce. And this is done through a scientific method. Similarly, in our curriculum also, social science curriculum, humanities curriculum, we should be careful about what we are imparting, what we are injecting to our children. See that it doesn't cause a damage. See that it is given in a right dose. And what would constitute the right dose must come through informed discussion. So curriculums, as we discuss curriculum before we implement it. Why we should that millions of facts have occurred in history, but not everything figures. We cannot handle everything. So what needs to be imparted? What doesn't need to be imparted? What is living and what is dead? What we need to accept, what we need to reject. All this has to be deliberated upon in different forums, in classroom, in outside classroom, in seminars, in legislative assemblies, everywhere. In media, in press, in all our social interactions. And then a consensus emerges. And that consensus is to be taken into account. That consensus should, be respected. But it is very difficult to come to a consensus, especially in times when you have dictatorial tendencies supreme. Everybody claiming he is right. I am absolutely right. What do? It is in this context that is proper and scientific, a critical understanding of social sciences, critical role social scientists have to play. Critical role humanities has to play, our laureates have to play, our philosophers have to play. Another aspect which I would like to dwell upon for a few minutes is the changes that have come up in terms of new ways of teaching and new ways of researches. For example, technology, the way I'm talking to you, it's so unusual for me. I have always talked to people with a human touch. I have organized numerous seminars, attended numerous conferences, seminars. This webinar is a new term for me. How do I cope with it? I'm trying to. I'm not giving up. Technology is supposed to support us, but I will never allow technology to master me. I'm not a Luddite. I'm not opposed to technology. I'm not opposed to modern innovations and the changes. They are good. In fact, they have improved our quality, the quality of our life. Maybe this webinar technology allows me to reach corners where I couldn't have imagined to go. It may have deprived me the pleasure of meeting you in person, seeing new places, interacting with you over a cup of tea or coffee, enjoying food together. But at the same time, it has allowed me to expand probably quantitatively, if not qualitatively. See the difference, quantitative, qualitative. We need both. We don't need only quantity at the cost of quality. No. Can there be an amalgamation? How do we make technology serve our purpose better? Technology, we make it. Technology is not something divine. Faith is divine. The holy books might be divine. But this mobile is not divine. We made it. We have innovated. We have moved thanks to our knowledge. Thanks to our mastery over logarithm, for centuries. But at the same time, we should be also careful what impact this technology is going to have. The new methods are going to have on our future generations. Researchers will be affected. I know how I used to run around libraries, dozens and dozens of archives, record room, libraries, what a fun it was. Looking into dusting old books, old records, 2-century-old records, etc., using magnifying glass to read them, those beautiful handwritings on handmade paper. That romance is gone. Today, you just go on Google. There is some archive.com, there is some, all libraries and universities are putting up what they call digitization. So much of information has come suddenly. And you get it without much labor on your fingertips. So the romance is gone. The labor is gone. And what do you do with it? Then how do you process the data? There is suddenly so much of information that it strains your mind. You are unable to cope with it. And what do you do? Then it leads to certain kind of plagiarism. Cut and paste. Is this research? Where will social science go now? If we do this, in basic sciences, at least they have to go to laboratory. They have to sit before an electron microscope or do something. But in humanities and social sciences, I can't put a human being in a test tube. My laboratory is this. My laboratories are libraries. My laboratories are, lots of materials through which I cross-check my facts. Now, how do you do all this? You are doing it in a very, very, now in a fashion. And we all want to publish quickly. So quickly. This will affect the quality. It has already affected the quality. When I see some of the online journals, when I have to referee, my heart aches. We have the quantity, whereas quality is going down. We shouldn't allow technology to compromise with our quality. Technology should be my slave. I shouldn't become its slave. No. Technology is my product. I cannot allow it to become a bhasmasur. But at the same time, I know that this gin of technology is out of the bottle. I can't put it back into the bottle. No way. My 4-year-old grandson, 5-year-old, they keep fiddling with the mobile. They connect to many things more quickly than I can do. I can't give them the childhood which I enjoyed. Things have changed and I have to accept it. With this acceptance, the problem of hazarding a future, guessing a future, building upon our past experiences becomes even more difficult, becomes even more fickle, because the technology changed quickly. So far as I understand, in my philosophical tradition also, in Sanskrit, 3 terms are used. One is adhyana. As a student, I was supposed to study adhyana. Adhyana. Adhyana should lead you to chintan, which means analysis, thinking. And when you do chintan over a long period of time and properly, very great, adhyana and chintan together, then a stage comes which you call manana, where you reflect. Manana, reflective knowledge. These stages, now thanks to technology, have been encapsulated. It comes like a capsule, it comes like a shot. How can it be? It takes time for a wine to mature, sir. If you have tasted a 50-year-old wine, then you will know what it is. And here you are doing it in a shot. How can you? Adhyana, Chintana, Manana will come gradually. And you have to keep persevering. Music. This new kind of instruments have taken the whole jing out of older instruments. and the amount of sadhana that they did. A synthesizer. Is it really music? Tell me, sir. Is synthesizer music? The people are flourishing over it. They are ravishing over it. We should learn it for our own discipline purposes. Should we allow a synthesizer, a synthetic social science? Or we go for a much more natural, humane way to deal with humanities and social sciences? I think I have taken a lot of your time. If you have any questions, I would be very happy to answer. A lot more could have been said, but I think I have given you something to ponder upon. My apologies for being indisciplined, for being wayward, for being disjointed. I know all this. Many times people ask me, have you got these days, thanks to technology, PowerPoint slide to show? So I say, I have no power, no point. Never enjoyed any power in life. And point. It's for you to find out. I may have been pointless, and I'm happy with it. Very happy with it. Thank you very much. Very kind for sparing your time. Thank you.
TIIKM, the International Institute of Knowledge Management.